Call it a gut punch, call it instant karma, call it a rude awakening. Donald Trump is learning just how much this country hates him. The latest polling results from The Economist show the following. Donald Trump's approval in Georgia, negative 18.6%. Donald Trump's approval in Texas, negative 17.2%. In Michigan, negative 15.8%. In North Carolina, negative 13.6%. In Ohio, negative 9.2%. How about Florida? Negative 7.5%. How about Iowa? Negative 8.7%. How about South Carolina? Negative 7.3%. Or Mississippi, negative 6.9%. How about Alaska? Negative 6.6%. Or Ruby Red, Louisiana, negative 5.1%. And Nebraska, negative 1.8%. Donald Trump's approval is atrocious. It is the worst in modern presidential history. Strike that. The worst in presidential history. He is utterly despised by the American people. And those poll numbers just slapped him across the face as he continues to embarrass the United States when he traveled to Davos this week, and he continues to embarrass us every single day with just his pathetic behavior. I mean, take a look at what his cabinet was just saying over the past 24 to 48 hours. You've got Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying that, well, you know, most adults have 5, 10, 15 homes. And so when you have 15 homes, you're able to diversify your portfolio. What are you talking about? Adults have 5, 10 homes. No one has 5 to 10 homes other than your right-wing billionaire friends. Americans can't afford homes right now. Americans can't afford groceries right now. Y'all are ripping away people's health care right now. You're refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act, and you have the ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo terrorizing communities. And you're like, you have 5 to 10 homes. No one has 5 to 10. These people are so out of touch. Here, play this clip.
We're going to give guidance at some point to see what is a mom and pop that someone, maybe your parents for their retirement, about 5, 10, 12 homes. So we don't want to push the mom and pops out. We just want to push everyone else out.
Now, talking about out of touch, then you have Brooke Rollins, Donald Trump's agriculture secretary. She's been saying for the last few weeks, everything can just be more affordable if you just eat one piece of broccoli, one piece of tortilla, one piece of chicken, and one other thing. It's $3 a day. We've run simulations on this. This is what you get. Remember, they were previously like, you get one doll, one pencil, and now they're like one chicken, one broccoli, one piece of a tortilla, and one other thing. She's continuing to do this. She's saying, actually, we ran another 1,000 simulations. And she goes, your entire day's meal should only cost you $15.64 if you follow our nutrition guidelines. $15.64? What planet are you living in? And while y'all are out there on your yachts, plural, multiple yachts, private jets, talking about golden ballrooms, stop lecturing us on eating $15.46 worth of food in a day for our families. How dare you? The hell are these people? Here, play this clip.
I said, come back to me and let me know. And I don't want any funny business with numbers. Like, I really want to know what that looks like, because we had run almost 1,000 simulations, and between $3 and $4 is a fair number if you can have access to that food. So just about an hour ago, I saw new numbers that were run. A full day, meaning 3 full square meals and a snack, is about $15.64. $15.64. That's all 3 meals and a snack. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming days and weeks.
Oh, and then you have Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. And Howard Lutnick says, you know what? Greenland isn't even a country the last time I checked. Greenland isn't a country. Here, play this clip right here.
What would you say if one of our allies said, look, we're going to go in and take over another country, even though the country said we're not interested? I mean, we talk all day and every day about evil action from Putin going into Ukraine. I mean, people are looking at this and saying, how is it possible that the U.S. can acquire another country, even though they're pushing back?
Well, I don't remember Greenland being another country. We're not taking over Denmark. It's just Greenland is in our hemisphere. It's far, far away from Denmark, as we know. And it's 57,000 people, right, who are close to America. And it's important for us to make sure we protect the Western Hemisphere. The strength of America in the Western Hemisphere is vital for the world. When America shines, the world shines.
Okay, then you have MAGA Mike Johnson. And MAGA Mike Johnson is like, he's asked a question by Manu Raju at CNN. So Trump's tariff authority expires at the end of the month. Is Congress going to do its job? Because the power of the purse, the power of taxation, the power of tariffs is the power of Congress? Are you going to do anything, MAGA Mike? And MAGA Mike goes, I have no intention of getting in the way of the president. What do you mean you have no intention? There's something called the freaking Constitution, and Article 1 vests these powers with you, you weak, pathetic imbecile. Play this clip.
You have an opportunity to try to block any vote challenging Trump's tariffs. These authorities expiring at the end of the month. Will you insert in a rule a provision blocking any effort to challenge Trump's tariffs?
We're determining all of that. What I would say is that I have no intention of getting in the way of President Trump and his administration and how they've been using this very effectively. I mean, you're talking about, I think it's $10 trillion or more. I don't know the exact total, but trillions of dollars have been brought into the U.S. in 1 year's time since President Trump took over.
And then more from MAGA Mike when he was asked, so what do you make about it that Donald Trump has just created a board, which he calls a board of peace, and he now has Vladimir Putin joining? Let's take a listen to what MAGA Mike says. Let's play this clip.
I think there's a long list of people nominated for the Board of Peace, and I think some of the details are still being determined. And for $1 billion, you get a permanent seat. I saw over the weekend. I've not dug into the details of that. It's not within our purview. It's an administration project. But I think it's one that's greatly welcomed. We need a Board of Peace there.
Speaking of polls, which I showed earlier, I want to share this with you as well. As Harry Enton says, you want to know how poorly Donald Trump is polling when it comes to both his cover-up of the Epstein files and his threats to Greenland? Greenland polls worse than Epstein. So if Greenland was a distraction from Epstein, the only issue that polls worse than Epstein is Donald Trump's infatuation with conquering Greenland. Here, play this clip.
There's been a suggestion among some that one of the things the president is trying to do by focusing on Greenland is maybe to distract from other things. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. So how much are people focused on Greenland opposed to other things?
Yeah, okay. So this is the whole idea, John. The president of the United States didn't like the focus on the Epstein files. We're going to change the subject and we're going to go over to Greenland. And from that perspective, it's worked. Look at this. Google searches versus December. For the Epstein files, down through the floor, far fewer people are searching for the Epstein files, down 72%. Of course, you can't fall any lower than down being 100%. Versus for Greenland, look at this. The highest on record. Up like a rocket, almost up 1,600%. My goodness gracious. So if the idea was to distract from the Epstein files and focus the American people on something else, it has been a success by that metric.
But we don't know if that was the goal here, but if it was. Now, how is saying focus on Greenland opposed to the Epstein files in terms of focusing on an issue that's good for you?
Yeah, okay. So if this was the idea, right? Well, it's a bad idea politically speaking. Why do I say that? Because take a look here. Trump's net approval rating on the Epstein files, look at that. Just absolutely awful. 38 points below water. But any try to buy Greenland is somehow even more unpopular. Look at this. It's 40 points below water. There is barely an issue out there that's worse for Donald Trump than the Epstein files, but any attempts to buy Greenland or use military force on Greenland, which even polls worse than this, is one of them. It is arguably the most unpopular thing that Donald Trump can try to do is mess with Greenland.
So Greenland is polling worse than the Epstein files.
You got it.
Now, with the Trump regime engaged in such abhorrent behavior that I believe just shows they hate Americans, as you have Congress under MAGA Mike Johnson capitulating, bending the knee, supine Congress, I think it's good to have governors on the front line fighting back. I want to highlight one of those governors right now. Let's bring in the governor from Massachusetts, Governor Maura Healey. I conducted this interview with Governor Healey the other day. I want to share this interview with her. Let's bring Governor Healey in from the other day. Great to see you, Governor. You announced your reelection campaign today and just stands in stark contrast to what you've accomplished during the first term to everything that Donald Trump has done already in such a short period of time. For you, I mean, affordability is not a buzzword. You've been talking about it when you ran for office many, many years ago, and you actually implemented it in the state. When it comes to protecting people's access to vaccine, protecting people as Donald Trump rips away their health care and trying to create safeguards around what Trump's doing there. When it comes to food insecurity, helping people there. I mean, the Massachusetts, like lots of states, have been under a barrage of attacks. I mean, whether it's the universities, whether it's everything from museums, every aspect of it, education, science. And so let's just talk about how you've weathered. I mean, you've been one of the most assertive people pushing back against Donald Trump's fascism. So let's just start at the reflection, because we're a year into this disastrous Trump term, which I think is frankly even worse than many people expected. How have you been able to push back, protect Massachusetts?
Well, Ben, it's great to be with you. And yeah, it's a year to the day that Trump took office. And I agree with you. It's worse than we even expected. I come to this as somebody who served as Attorney General for 8 years here, and that included time during the Trump administration. So, you know, I'm used to Trump to a certain extent, having sued him successfully, stopped a lot of bad things from happening with other AGs back in Trump 1. But I think, you know, this moment that we're in, I think requires leadership that is steady, that is calm, that is principled, that makes clear to people, you know, again and again, that's a lie. This is the truth. This is right. This is wrong. You know, this is the American way and American values and principles. And this is something that's antithetical to that. And I'll tell you as governor what I'm focused on in this moment. You know, you mentioned affordability. I did start, 3 years ago as governor with a laser focus on that. I come from a family, 5 kids. I was raised by a single mom. I worked my butt off from the time I was 10 years old in a variety of jobs. And my favorite was waitressing. And, I bring those experiences with me. I did as Attorney General, fighting for consumers, fighting for workers. I do as governor. And right now in this moment, when Donald Trump's, over screwing around with Greenland, imposing tariffs at a whim that are only further jacking up costs for everybody here in this country, I'm focused on how do I drive down housing costs by building more homes. I've been able to build or get under development 100,000 homes in Massachusetts in the last 3 years just by doing streamlined permitting, some tax credits, making things easier. I've offered up some surplus state land, and we brought online 100,000 homes, right? Because I want to lower rents, lower costs. On things like energy, people are struggling right now, especially in the Northeast with gas and electric bills. Donald Trump's done nothing to help us that way. He's trying to take wind and solar energy sources that we actually need away from us. And what I'm trying to do is just move forward with ways to help ratepayers. How do we bring more energy in? This week in Massachusetts, we celebrate the fact that we've got hydroelectric power coming from Canada. It started last week. It's going to power 20% of electricity needs in Massachusetts. And that's something I'm really excited about. Healthcare, you mentioned. I'm the first governor in Massachusetts to cap deductibles and copays. When Trump took away the subsidies a month ago, that devastated about 250,000, 300,000 people in Massachusetts. I've been able to come forward and say, we're going to find a way to cover those subsidies in the meantime through our ACA program here and funds that we have. And so, I am continuing to focus on affordability. How do we make life easier and more affordable for people at a time when the federal administration, it seems, is doing everything to make life more expensive and difficult for our residents, for our businesses. That is going to continue to be my focus. The other thing, Ben, is this, and I'll certainly stand up to anyone if they interfere with our livelihood in Massachusetts, our well-being of our residents or industries and businesses. And I'll certainly do that when it comes to Donald Trump. Earlier this year, he came right at our economic infrastructure when he defunded science and research, right? And took away funding for cancer cures under development and all sorts of medical treatments and innovations. 1 in 10 R&D jobs in the country are here in Massachusetts. It's so essential to who we are, frankly, as a country. And, from that, we have a lot of jobs, we have a lot of startups, we have a lot of industries, and we're the home to life sciences. So when he did that, my response was, you know what? We as a state are going to invest even more in science and research. You have to be right now a governor who recognizes the harm that Donald Trump and the federal administration are doing to Americans across this country, and be prepared to step up and step in. And, that's where I'm at. You mentioned vaccines. When RFK and Trump took away vaccines months ago, I actually directed my public health commissioner to write a prescription for everybody in the state. I got insurers to pay for it. And so now in Massachusetts, if you want a vaccine for yourself or your child, you can get one at no cost. These are the kinds of ways we need to operate in this moment. And certainly, I look to what's happening on our streets with ICE, and we can talk about that. Something I, never could have imagined happening in communities in the United States of America. But that stuff's real. And I am committed to standing strong for who we are, for the people in Massachusetts, and for American values.
I note that when you list all of those very specific and tangible things that you do for the people in Massachusetts, on that list, Governor, I got to push back. You don't mention Qatari bank accounts, secret accounts in Qatar, or no more golden ballrooms. You don't have any plans there, or
no, and I'm not blowing up boats in the creek.
No private jets coming in from foreign countries, or any interest in taking over New Hampshire and making it, but in all seriousness, no videos of you on horsebacks riding around that you're going to charge hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer. In all seriousness, though, the common thing that I keep on saying now, and I just say it reflexively when I cover this stuff, whether it's professional or not, I say, what are we doing here? I go, truthfully, what are we doing here? Because to your point, we have to ask the more basic question sometimes, is like, what's the purpose of this? Well, why do we have a government if what the government's doing at the federal level is to truly just hurt us? Like, is to inflict pain and make us suffer. And I know sometimes in a gamified media landscape where you're going to experience it as you launch your reelection campaign, who's she running against? And this person said this, and this but I just go, step back. Are we good people or are we evil people? Do we keep our word or do we break our word? Like, that aspect of it, I feel like, has been lost. And what I love about, your leadership is sometimes you're like, that's just bad. That's bad. That's not good.
Yeah. And, look, Ben, people will disagree with me on any number of decisions I make, right? That's the business that I'm in. But, I will tell you this. I'm somebody who believes deeply in this country. I'm the governor of Massachusetts. We take pride in the fact, in my view, though Governor Shapiro and Governor Spanberger might challenge me on this, American democracy was born right here in Massachusetts, right? The shots that rang out in Concord and Lexington, what we're going to celebrate this year, 250 years of this great country, as challenging, as imperfect as it is at times. I take that really seriously to my core, and beyond that, I believe in the rule of law. I believe in the system that we've set up in this country and the Constitution. And it pains me so deeply to see a Department of Justice trashed by my former colleague, Pam Bondi, to see the corruption, to see the cruelty. As somebody who supports law enforcement, I've worked with law enforcement for years, to see these rogue ICE agents on the street. To me, it really is offensive to the hardworking men and women in law enforcement who are properly trained, who know how to de-escalate, who care for, protect, and serve their communities. At a moment where we see Donald Trump and Stephen Miller unleashing an all-out attack and war assault on cities and states, residents, Americans, and their leaders in this country. It's unbelievable. And, to see the Department of Justice weaponized with subpoenas. I mean, the whole game is trying to intimidate and silence anyone who stands up to you, whether you're a university president or the head of a corporation or a political leader. I mean, that's what's happening. And to me, it makes me all the more resolved, Ben, and determined as a leader in this moment, with agency in this moment, to be clear about truth, to be clear about what's actually happening, the consequences of actions. One of the things I talk about to people all the time is, okay, you defund science and research, something that the federal government has always partnered with states on since World War II. And as a result, we've seen an exponential growth in innovation and discovery, and commercialized, frankly, to the benefit of America's GDP. You take that away, what happens? You have China on our campuses and at our institutions, recruiting away American talent. Where are they going to go right now? And so, that is happening. And it's important for us to talk about it and explain like the real world consequences of this, and to just sort of, call it out. I'm a basketball player, right? And a point guard. And I played in college. I played in Europe, actually. I played in Europe at the time of the formation of the EU. And it's like amazing to me to see this all under attack by our own president, right? But the thing with my basketball reference is that it's offense and defense, right? We've got to both defend and protect freedom, the rule of law, the ethos that we've had in this country, which was an ethos of aspiration. How do we make life better for our people today and for generations to come? And we've also got to play offense. And, that's why I'm focused. No matter what's going on in Washington, I'm going to find a way to make sure that my people have access to health care, have access to food, that we're building homes to lower housing costs. I capped renters' fees, right? Because they're high here too. That we find ways to move forward with an energy revolution and bringing more energy into this region. We're going to continue to deploy solar and utilize wind. And now we've got hydro and we've got storage coming online and all sorts of things. And I'm just going to continue to work on the things that I think matter to people and meet people where they are. And it's a hard time for people, which, my final thought or comment is this, Ben. There's so much alienation, there's so much anxiety, fear, uncertainty. And, how could there not be? Because we're seeing things that we've never seen before. Just the trauma to our immigrant communities and communities in general, based on what ICE is doing. We really need to be clear that some things are just right and some things are just wrong. And like enough is enough. It pains me when I see people ripped from our streets. We had a young boy on his way to 16-year-old on his way to volleyball practice, just taken by ICE off the streets, pulled over in his car. We had a Fulbright scholar at one of our universities who wrote an op-ed, who was taken away and detained for months. We just recently had another college student here in Massachusetts who was going to fly home at Christmas to see her parents in Texas, ended up being deported to Honduras, a country she hasn't seen since she was a very little kid. This stuff isn't normal. This stuff is wrong. And whether it's ballrooms or whether it's masked agents or whether it's, attacks on Europe and Greenland. I mean, who was talking about Greenland, right? I mean, this is not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to have somebody who acts like a 2-year-old with a tantrum. And on any given day, we don't know what he's going to do. This stuff shouldn't be normalized. It's not right. We're better than this as a country. And I'm here to hopefully continue to lead as governor in one of our great states. I'm all the more resolute to do that. I'm also optimistic because, I think people get that. I think people want for that. They know this isn't right. They know that, even if people who voted for the president, it's not what they thought they were signing up for a lot of them, right? And that's why it's just important that we continue to do the work. And I look forward to being able to do that. Hopefully our Patriots will get a win this weekend. I talk about the Patriots of 1776, but we got a football team that I know not everybody cheers for, but we got a big game this weekend that we're looking forward to.
I may or may not be watching that as a recovering Jets fan, but now a Rams fan. So maybe we meet again. We will see. But I want to give you kind of the final word before we go as well. But I think there needs to be, like, we haven't fully studied like the impact of. We don't fully live in the federal level in a rules-based, order-based world right now that we're just used to. A tragedy happens. The president doesn't go, "You scumbag, loser." The president goes and brings people together. And there's a psychological trauma that's inflicted when the leader of the country does these things every single day. The same way we see what happens when a rules-based order collapses in the international realm, and what that looks like when you return to a law of the jungle or might makes right and all of these things. And our children going to be meaner and sadder? And how do we, there's just those issues that I love, that I think it's important that we focus on. Anyway, before we go, where can people learn more about the reelection campaign if they want more information about you? Although I know a lot of people know about you. Where do they find it? Anything else you want to say to our 6 million subscribers?
Go, thank you. MauraHealey.com. It's HEALEY. See, MauraHealey.com. And you can read more about me, the campaign, what we're up to. And I'd love to have folks support. You brought up a really good point about kids and the impact. There's so many young people who have only known, for the most part, Donald Trump as president, right? 4 years back in 2016 and now. And, I really worry about sort of what's happened in terms of the breakdown of, how we talk to each other, decorum, call it whatever you want. It's not good. It's not healthy to be, so caustic and have everybody surrounded by this negativity. And, obviously what we've seen, in terms of the unleashing of discriminatory conduct, racism, the taunts, the bullying, that's what our president is modeling right now. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to comport ourselves differently. And, as a parent and an aunt, I care a lot about what our young people are seeing and what we're showing them. And we just got to be clear, this isn't right. I also, am of the view, Ben, that we can get there, though. We can get there. It's going to take resolve. It's going to take a fight. We're coming off of MLK weekend, right? And one of the things that I've been struck by is the courage of ordinary Americans. In fact, it's the courage of ordinary Americans that I see in contrast to the lack of courage by so many in power, whether they're in Congress or in business and industry, that, it may be working right now. The market's great for them. A lot of deals getting done. But what the hell is happening to the American people? What's happening to our farmers? What's happening to all the people that are going to see their healthcare go away? What's going to the small businesses? The ones I see in Massachusetts who are really struggling under the weight of tariffs, right? That stuff is real, and we've just got to continue to talk about it and show up. And that's what I'm trying to do: show up in these ways. I also was struck listening to the comments about Martin Luther King this weekend, and courage is you're only courageous when you're doing something that actually is a little fearful, right? That actually you're a little nervous about, that actually requires you to step beyond, even though you're fearful. And we've got to bring that kind of courage and that kind of resolve to this moment. And, I want it done in a way that, it's sad to see what's happened in Minneapolis. And, my heart goes out to Governor Walz and Mayor Fry for all that they're dealing with. But understand that's a situation instigated, created by Donald Trump. You send 3,000 federal agents into an area where there are only 600 police officers, Minneapolis and St. Paul. What do you think is going to happen? You know, and why are they there in the first place? You know, that's just an indication of how off the rails things have gotten with this administration. And it's cruel. It's callous. They seem to be all about lining their own pockets with crypto and, you know, other things and taking care of themselves and just a few friends. But I find it really, I'm hard pressed to find anybody who is better off a year out now from Trump taking office. There's some, you know, who are seeing more in their gains in the stock market and some deals being done. But how's that helping the American people? The vast majority of American people right now who are living with unnecessary fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. And I'm committed as a governor to work with other leaders, by the way, across the aisle, to get us to a better place, to show up and deliver for our folks, and just show, you know, what this great country is really all about. And I think in a year where we celebrate 250 years of American history and this moment and the revolution, it's a really good time to be bringing that every single day.
Thanks so much for joining us. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey announcing re-election campaign. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be with you, Ben. Take care.
You too. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.